Human guided an injured alien girl through the battle fog. Her final gesture was not about war. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The fog rolled in thick as wool, swallowing what remained of the battlefield until even shapes, just a few feet away, dissolved into gray. Evan Carter moved through it with one hand brushing the jagged hull of a fallen shuttle, letting the cold metal guide him like a blind man feeling his way across a dream. The air tasted like iron and burnt circuits, humming faintly with leftover static. Somewhere far beyond the haze, thunder from distant artillery rumbled like a tired sky, trying to remember how to be angry. Evan wasn't a soldier. He reminded himself of that with every uneven breath. He was a logistics engineer from Oregon, drafted only to keep generators alive and supply crates moving. But when the fog sirens blared and comms cut out, everyone scattered, and now he was alone in a silence so complete it felt like the world was holding its breath. He checked the small handheld beacon strapped to his vest. The screen flickered once, then surrendered to darkness. Great, he muttered, shifting the strap of his pack. A mile or two, maybe, and he'd reach the fallback zone. If he walked straight. If he didn't circle. If the fog didn't thicken again. A soft sound brushed his ear, so faint he could have imagined it. Not metal. Not thunder. Not wind. A voice. Or a breath. Evan froze, listening harder, feeling the cold settle into his shoulders. Then it came again, a thin thread of sound tugging at him from somewhere deeper in the haze. He followed it slowly, boots sinking into churned earth, each step careful, as if the fog itself might shatter. His heart pounded against his ribs, not from fear of combat. He had barely seen any, but from the dread of stumbling onto something he couldn't fix with tools and tape. A figure appeared, wavering like heat above asphalt, then steadied into shape. Someone slumped against a broken wing panel, knees drawn in, one arm wrapped around the other as if holding pain in place. Evan's breath caught. Not human. Even through the fog, her skin shimmered a pale blue-gray, like moonlit stone. An alien girl, young, maybe his age or slightly younger, with a slender build and a uniform marked by symbols he didn't recognize. Her eyes were half open, unfocused, their silver pupils reflecting the faint red pulse of a dying emergency beacon beside her. She tried to sit up when she sensed him, but the effort made her sway. She lifted a hand, not quite threatening, just determined. Stop, don't come closer. Her voice rasped softly, shaped by an accent that bent every syllable into something delicate. Evan raised both palms slowly, keeping his distance. Hey, easy. I'm not here to hurt you. Her breathing hitched. You're human. The words sounded like a contradiction she didn't know how to hold. Yeah, guilty, Evan said. Look, I know we're supposed to be on opposite sides, but you're hurt. Badly. Let me help. She blinked hard, as if weighing risk against survival. The fog pressed around them, thickening, humming with quiet electricity. Finally, her hand lowered an inch. Evan stepped closer, careful, gentle, letting her see every motion before he made it. The closer he got, the more he noticed. The tremble in her shoulders, the way she angled her body to hide weakness, the faint glow beneath her skin where alien biology struggled to keep her conscious. What happened? He asked softly. Her answer came thin as fog. I fell behind, and the mist swallowed the path. Evan nodded, sliding an arm behind her shoulders. Well, then we'll find a new one. Together. She lifted her gaze to his, silver eyes flickering with a mix of suspicion and relief. In the dim swirl of battle fog, a fragile truce formed, held together not by treaties or orders, but by a single quiet truth. No one should be left alone out here. And as Evan helped her to her feet, the fog around them shifted, as if listening. The fog curled around Evan and the alien girl as if trying to pull them back into the silence they had just escaped. Her weight rested lightly against his arm, not heavy, just unsteady, like someone trying to remember how standing worked. Evan adjusted his grip so she would not slip, feeling the faint warmth beneath her cold blue skin. She glanced up at him once, as if checking whether he truly meant to help, then looked away quickly, embarrassed by the moment of trust. The ground beneath them was soft with dust and scattered metal fragments, each step sending a muted crunch through the air. Evan kept his voice calm and low. I am Evan, by the way. She hesitated before answering. Sarika. The name floated in the fog like a small fragile thing. You do not have to stay with me. Humans should not wander the mist without a guide. Evan gave a lopsided smile she could barely see. Good thing I found one then. She almost protested, her brows pulling together in confusion, but the effort of walking slowed her reply to a whisper. I am not a guide. I am only lost. Then we will be lost in the same direction, he said. The fog thinned for half a second, enough for Evan to glimpse the silhouette of a broken supply crawler ahead, its lights dim but still alive. He gently steered her toward it. A soft beeping echoed from the crawler's emergency beacon, steady and comforting like a heartbeat. The sound helped them walk straighter through the featureless gray. Sarika's steps faltered again, and Evan eased her onto a flat piece of plating beside the crawler's hull. Sit for a minute. Catch your breath. She lowered herself slowly, breathing out as the tension left her legs. Her silver pupils widened, taking in the shattered machine. This was yours, she said. Your people used these for food transport. Evan nodded. Yeah, I used to maintain these back at base. Seeing one wrecked is like seeing an old friend having a bad day. Sarika studied him, her expression unreadable in the dim light. You talk easily. Humans talk so easily. Evan shrugged. It helps keep the fog from feeling like it is swallowing us. She touched her shoulder where a faint glow pulsed beneath her skin. My people do not speak when we are afraid. We grow quiet so others do not sense weakness. Evan knelt beside her, careful not to intrude on her space. Well, you saved my day just by saying something. Quiet gets real uncomfortable real fast out here. Her gaze softened, just a little. You are strange, Evan. I get that a lot. A soft wind pushed through the fog, stirring loose dust and brushing the edge of Sarika's hair. She winced lightly as she tried to reposition herself. Evan noticed and gently adjusted the torn fabric near her side so it would not pull against her injury. She watched his hands with cautious interest, not fear this time, just curiosity. Humans show care with their hands, she murmured. Where I come from, care is shown with distance. You protect by staying away so the other one does not feel burdened. Sounds lonely, Evan said. She looked down at her palms, tracing the faint luminescent patterns that ran across them. Sometimes. He stood and offered his hand to help her rise. She stared at it for a moment before placing her palm against his. Her fingers were cool, almost smooth like river stone, but they curled with surprising strength. As he pulled her gently to her feet, the fog around them shifted once more, revealing a narrow path forward. Sarika steadied herself and whispered, almost to the fog itself, perhaps being close is not always a burden. Evan smiled softly. Good, because we still have a long walk ahead. The fog closed behind them as they moved onward, two silhouettes learning how not to be strangers. The narrow path revealed by the fog felt uncertain, as if it existed only because the two of them had chosen to walk it. Evan kept a steady pace beside Sarika, matching her rhythm so she never had to strain. The mist around them glowed faintly with reflected light from her luminescent markings, creating the strange illusion that she carried her own lantern beneath her skin. For a while, neither spoke. The quiet was not tense now, just thoughtful, shaped by the soft crunch of their boots and the occasional hum from the damaged crawler behind them fading into distance. At last Sarika drew a slow breath. When the mist comes, she said, my people say it listens. It remembers every sound. Evan glanced over. Guess we should try not to embarrass ourselves then. A small, tired smile tugged at her lips. You speak lightly, even when you are unsure. If I let myself think too hard about being lost, I would freeze up, Evan said. So I keep things simple. One step, then the next. Sarika studied him for several seconds, as if comparing his words with the quiet steadiness in his movements. You fear, she said softly, but you do not let fear choose for you. Evan rubbed the back of his neck, feeling oddly exposed. Well, I am not fearless. I just prefer moving over sitting still. She nodded once, accepting that answer. The fog thinned again enough to reveal a low ridge covered in metallic dust. Evan gestured toward it. If we get above that ridge, maybe we can see a marker or a landmark. Together they climbed, Sarika leaning slightly on him when the incline grew steeper. Her balance wavered more than before, and he wrapped an arm around her back to steady her. Even through the fabric of her uniform, she felt cool to the touch, like stone warmed only by memory. When they reached the top, the view was not what Evan hoped for. More fog, more silence. The world below was a soft gray ocean stretching in all directions. Sarika's shoulders slumped. There is nothing. We are walking inside a cloud that has forgotten how to lift. Evan rested his hands on his hips. Maybe, but the crawler's beacon came from behind us. That means machinery can still function out here. Maybe another downed craft is ahead, or a boundary light, or anything we can use. She shook her head slightly. Your optimism is unusual. Is that a compliment? It is an observation, she replied, but her tone softened in a way that made the words feel like both. A sudden shift in the air brushed past them, stirring the fog like a curtain moved by an unseen hand. Evan felt the change before he heard it. A faint rhythmic pulse, not threatening, more like a navigation beacon or a transmitter pinging at steady intervals. Sarika tilted her head. That signal. It is not from your people or mine. It might be a neutral relay. Evan perked up. If it is neutral, then it is not tied to any camp. No one would be guarding it. She steadied herself. Then we follow it. They descended the ridge carefully. The pulse grew clearer the closer they came, guiding them like a lighthouse that had forgotten how to glow but remembered how to hum. The mist swirled gently around Sarika's hair, catching flecks of light from her markings. She moved with more confidence now, though still leaning on Evan when the uneven terrain shifted beneath them. After several minutes, Sarika spoke again, voice quiet but certain. Evan, before you found me, I thought the mist would take me. Well, he said gently, I am glad it did not. She looked at him, silver eyes steady. You did not treat me as an enemy. You treated me as someone who should not be alone. Evan offered a small smile. Nobody should be alone in a place like this. Her gaze held his for a moment longer before she looked ahead again. The pulse grew louder, guiding them forward, two silhouettes walking side by side as the fog finally began to thin in slow, patient strands. The signal ahead deepened into a steady, low pulse, each beat rolling gently through the fog like a guide tapping its fingers on the air. Evan slowed his steps so Sarika could keep pace, watching the way her breathing eased each time the sound reached them. It was as if the pulse itself reassured her that the world was not entirely lost behind this endless gray. It is getting clearer, he said softly. Sarika nodded, the faint glow along her skin brightening with each measured breath. It is a beacon that does not belong to either side, she murmured. Devices like that are placed only for emergencies. They are meant to guide travelers who do not have maps. Evan smiled. Sounds perfect for us. They walked a little further until a soft incline rose beneath their feet. The terrain shifted from loose metallic dust to firmer ground, with scattered stones that clicked lightly under their weight. Sarika's balance wavered, and Evan steadied her with a gentle hand at her arm. She did not pull away this time. Her voice lowered to a quiet confession. My people are taught to walk alone, to endure without leaning on anyone. Evan kept his tone warm. How is that working out for you today? She blinked at him, a small spark of surprise in her silver eyes before a faint smile touched her lips. Today it is different. As they reached the top of the slope, the fog parted just enough to reveal a dim structure ahead, barely outlined like a shadow, trying to remember it had shape. The beacon was embedded in a small metal pillar beside the structure, pulsing softly with a clean white light. There, Evan said. Looks like a relay station. Sarika examined it with careful eyes. If it is functional, it may have a basic shelter inside. Maybe supplies. Or at least a clear map of the terrain. Evan helped her toward it, brushing dust off the entry panel. He tapped the screen a few times, and to his relief, the door slid open with a gentle hiss, releasing a small pocket of warm, filtered air. Sarika exhaled with visible relief as they stepped inside. The space was small, barely big enough for two people, but it was clean and dimly lit. A soft yellow glow filled the room, warming their faces after the cold grip of the fog. Evan guided her to a narrow bench along the wall. She settled carefully, her shoulders dropping as she finally let herself rest without the strain of holding her body upright. "This is better," she whispered. The warmth softened the rigid lines around her eyes. Evan found a small thermal pack in a storage compartment and activated it. He handed it to her, and she cupped it between her hands, letting the heat seep into her palms. "Your people keep warmth in boxes," she said with quiet fascination. "We keep it in our bodies." "You do glow," Evan said lightly, nodding at the faint shimmer flowing along her skin. "Makes my jacket look pretty boring." Her gaze traveled over his face, studying the earnest expression behind the humor. "You try to make burdens lighter," she said. "It is unusual." "Unusual good?" he asked. She nodded once. "Unusual good." A gentle silence settled between them. Outside, the fog whispered against the metal walls, but inside the relay station it felt distant, as though the tiny shelter existed in a small pocket of safety, suspended between two worlds. Sarika traced the thermal pack with her fingertips. "Evan," she said slowly, "you do not ask why I was alone." "You will tell me when you want to," he replied. Her eyes widened slightly, as if she had not expected the answer to be so simple. "Most would demand to know." "I am not most," he said. A soft warmth flickered behind her gaze, something unspoken but genuine. The pulse of the beacon continued its steady rhythm outside, guiding anyone who might still be wandering the fog. Inside, two travelers sat in the quiet glow, learning the first shape of trust. Inside the small relay shelter, the warmth settled around Evan and Sarika like a soft blanket, calming the tension that had held both of them upright for too long. The fog outside continued its gentle tapping against the metal walls, steady and distant, as if reminding them that time still moved even when the world felt paused. Sarika rested with her back against the wall, her posture finally relaxed. The glow along her skin softened into a quiet shimmer, no longer urgent or strained. Evan sat a short distance away, giving her space while still staying close enough in case she needed support. For several moments, she watched the small heater unit on the wall, following the slow pulse of its indicator light. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm but deliberate. "There is something I should explain." Evan shifted slightly, not interrupting. "Before I became separated from my unit," she continued, "I was carrying something important. Not a weapon. A message." Evan met her eyes. "A message for your people?" She hesitated. "For both sides," she said. "It was meant to help end our conflict, but not everyone believes peace is worth pursuing. Some fear it. Some profit from avoiding it." Evan absorbed this quietly. "So you were not lost because you fell behind," he said gently. "You were lost because you were trying to protect something." Sarika lowered her gaze. "I feared telling you. Humans and my people have both suffered deeply. Trust is fragile." "Maybe," Evan said, "but not impossible." Her eyes lifted to his, studying his sincerity. "You do not react the way I expect," she murmured. "Most would demand proof. Or doubt me." "I do not need proof," he replied. "You were trying to do something good. That is enough for me." The glow beneath her skin brightened with a soft ripple, as though her body reacted to relief in a way she could not voice. "Your certainty," she said quietly, "is unfamiliar to me. My people debate every path before taking a single step." Evan chuckled gently. "Sounds efficient and extremely exhausting." A faint warmth crossed her expression. "Sometimes it is." She shifted slightly, readjusting the thermal pack in her hands. "Evan," she added, her tone more fragile, "if my message does not reach the delegates, this war may stretch on for many cycles. I do not know how much longer our worlds can endure it." Evan leaned back, thinking. "Then we will get you there," he said. "Beacon or no beacon, fog or no fog, we will find a way out." Sarika stared at him, searching his expression as if trying to understand the shape of his conviction. "You speak with such simplicity," she said. "In my culture, decisions are heavy. They must be weighed, tested, examined from every angle." "Sometimes," Evan said softly, "the right thing does not need to be weighed. It just needs someone to do it." She breathed out slowly, a sound that carried both gratitude and disbelief. Outside, the fog pressed closer again, brushing the shelter with soft whispers. The beacon hummed steadily, a patient guide in the distance. Inside, the warmth felt brighter than before, filling the small space with a quiet sense of purpose. For the first time since they met, Sarika did not look lost. Not to the fog. Not to fear. She looked forward, as if she could finally imagine a path beyond the mist, a path they might walk together. The warmth inside the relay shelter held steady, but the quiet between Evan and Sarika changed. It was no longer the silence of two strangers sharing space. It had shifted into something more delicate, the kind of silence that carried meaning even without sound. Sarika studied the small map projection that flickered above the console, its light reflecting softly off her silver pupils. The fog outside distorted the signal, causing the image to blur at the edges, but the layout of the terrain was still clear enough. The delegates meet at a neutral outpost beyond the ridge lines, she said quietly. If I reach them, they will hear the message. It will not end the conflict immediately, but it may slow its momentum. It may give us time to breathe. Evan nodded, tracing the route with his eyes. We can make that distance in a few hours if the fog lifts, or if we can find higher ground. Sarika's expression tightened with doubt. The fog here behaves unpredictably. It moves with intention, as if it chooses what to hide. Even my people struggle to navigate it. Good thing you have me then, Evan said, trying for a grin. Fog does not care who I am. Might as well treat me like everybody else. She looked at him with a soft, thoughtful expression that made him wonder what she saw when she looked at him. You do not realize, she said gently, but you carry a steadiness that the fog cannot swallow. Evan blinked. That is probably the nicest thing anyone has said to me. Sarika shifted slightly, wincing as her injured leg responded to the movement. Evan immediately leaned forward. Hey, slow down. You should rest a little longer. But she shook her head. No, we cannot stay too long. The beacon is temporary. It might shut down when its internal cycle resets. Her fingers traced the thermal pack absently, a nervous habit he had begun to recognize. And if the fog closes again, it may not open for a long time. Evan stood and moved toward the door, peering through the small viewing slot. The fog outside had thinned to a muted veil, drifting low like a soft blanket rather than a wall. Visibility looks better. Maybe this is our window. Sarika rose carefully, testing her balance. Her movement was steady but slow, each step deliberate. She looked at Evan. I will slow you down. If you leave now, you will reach your people faster. Evan turned to her with a quiet certainty. I did not come all this way to abandon someone at the finish line. Something softened in her posture. A small exhale she had been holding for too long. Your people value loyalty, she said. Mine value duty. But I have never understood how the two can exist together. Evan offered his hand. Maybe we will figure it out along the way. Sarika hesitated, then placed her cool palm in his. The glow beneath her skin brightened gently at the contact, reflecting a quiet trust that she did not verbalize. Together they stepped through the shelter door. The fog curled around their ankles, but did not rise. It did not reach for them this time. Instead, it parted in slow drifting strands, leaving a narrow corridor of clearer air ahead. Sarika looked at the shifting mist with surprise. It never behaves like this. Maybe, Evan said softly. It knows we are finally walking in the right direction. Side by side, guided by the fading pulse of the beacon, they moved into the open path, their silhouettes blending into the pale light as the fog eased its hold on the world around them. The fog continued to thin as Evan and Sarika followed the quiet corridor of clearer air, their steps steady and almost rhythmic. The beacon's pulse faded behind them until it became only a memory, replaced by the soft crunch of ground beneath their boots and the distant hum of unseen energy in the landscape. For the first time since they began walking, sunlight filtered through the haze in pale, gentle streaks. Sarika paused, lifting her face toward the light. The glow along her skin brightened as if answering it. My people believe light carries memory, she said softly. When it touches you, it learns your story. Evan glanced up as well. Hope it forgets the parts where I fell on my face earlier. A quiet, melodic sound escaped her. Almost laughter, though she seemed unsure how to shape it. Evan, you are unlike any human I have met. I get that a lot, he replied. They continued forward until the terrain shifted again. The ground rose into a natural ridge, and beyond it the mist seemed heavier, waiting like a curtain that might close at any moment. Sarika slowed, touching his arm gently. The neutral outpost is near this ridge. Once we pass it, there may be sensors that recognize my identity or the signal I carry. Evan nodded. Good. That means we are close. But as they climbed the ridge, Sarika's steps faltered. Not from injury alone. Evan sensed something else in the tightness of her movements. The way she kept glancing at the sky as though listening for something he could not hear. Sarika, he asked gently. She drew a long breath, gathering herself. There is something I did not tell you. The message I carry is encoded within my identification band. It is a diplomatic sequence meant to open negotiations. But it requires 2 confirmations. Mine, and one from a neutral party. Evan blinked. Neutral party? Like who? She met his eyes, the silver in them shimmering with quiet meaning. You. For a moment, the world felt still. Even the fog seemed to pause at the edge of the ridge. Evan frowned slightly. I am nobody important. I am not an ambassador. I fix broken equipment and file inventory reports. Exactly, she said. Your identity is unaligned. You are not a soldier. You have not acted with hostility. The system recognizes neutrality through absence of conflict. You are untouched by the war. Evan let that sink in, surprised by the weight of it. So the message does not work without me? It will not be accepted, Sarika confirmed. The delegates would see it as biased. They would dismiss it. But with a neutral verification, it becomes a documented act of mutual intention. Evan rubbed his forehead. So I am accidentally important. Not accidental, she said quietly. You chose to help me when you gained nothing from it. That is why the system will accept you. Her voice softened, filled with a sincerity that settled into the space between them. And that is why I trust you. The ridge leveled out, and the last stretch of fog ahead shimmered as if illuminated from within. Beyond that haze lay the outpost, and the future her message might shape. Evan adjusted his pack and offered his hand. Then let us finish what we started. Sarika placed her palm in his, her touch cool and steady. Together they walked toward the shimmering veil, the world ahead brightening with every step they took. The shimmering veil of fog ahead shifted like a slow-breathing creature, opening just enough to reveal a faint outline beyond it. Evan and Sarika moved toward it carefully, their footsteps quiet on the firming ground. The closer they came, the more the air changed. It felt lighter, charged with a quiet hum, almost as if the world on the other side of the mist waited for them to arrive. Sarika paused a few steps before the veil, her fingers tightening slightly around Evan's hand. Her silver pupils brightened with a mix of resolve and something softer, something she had not allowed herself to feel until now. Once we pass through, she said, everything will move quickly. The outpost scans will detect us immediately. My identification band will activate. Your presence will be logged. Evan nodded, steadying his breathing. That is fine. We came here for this. She searched his face, studying the calm in his expression. You do not fear what comes next. I do, he admitted, but not enough to walk away. Her gaze softened, and she released a breath she had held too long. Then we stepped forward together. They crossed the veil. The fog thinned instantly, dissolving into warm sunlight. The sudden clarity made Evan blink hard as the landscape opened around them. A neutral outpost stood a short distance ahead, small and unarmed, shaped like a cluster of rounded structures built for communication rather than defense. Its surface shimmered with a faint iridescence that reacted to the sunlight. Sarika's identification band glowed in response, emitting a gentle tone. It recognizes diplomatic clearance, she whispered. We are being scanned. Evan glanced around, expecting alarm or activity, but the outpost remained calm. Instead, a soft projection materialized from a nearby post, displaying a sequence of symbols hovering in the air. Sarika lifted her wrist toward it. The system is requesting the message's release. The band responded with a soft pulse. Evan watched with growing awareness of the moment's weight. She turned to him. It needs your confirmation as well. Just tell me what to do. Sarika guided his hand gently toward her wrist device. Place your palm over the central light. The system will read your neutrality and your intention. Evan pressed his hand lightly against the warm surface of the band. A soft vibration traveled through his skin, not uncomfortable, just aware. The projection shifted, brightened, and then folded into a new configuration, like a lock opening with the right key. Sarika inhaled sharply. It accepted you. Evan stepped back as the projection released a beam of light skyward, carrying her encoded message toward the network of diplomatic satellites that connected neutral channels. The message was away. Her mission, her burden, the weight she had carried through fog and fear, was finally in motion. But as the beam faded, Sarika's posture changed. A faint tremor passed through her frame, subtle but unmistakable. Evan moved closer. Sarika. She steadied herself with a hand on his arm. I am all right. It is only the relief. I have held this duty for so long that letting it go feels strange. Evan smiled softly. Strange good. She considered the words, then nodded. Strange good. The outpost chimed again, displaying a new projection that indicated reception of the message and notification sent to the delegates. It was done. Sarika looked toward the sky, her voice quiet. Whatever future comes, it will not come from war. Not this time. Evan watched her expression, seeing not just the warrior he had met, but the quiet strength beneath it. So what happens now? She lowered her gaze to him, her silver eyes reflecting the sunlight in gentle ripples. Now, she said, softly, we wait for the world to listen. They stood together at the edge of the open field, sunlight settling around them like a promise the fog had never been able to hide. The sunlight lingered over the quiet field as if the world itself wanted to pause and breathe after receiving Sarika's message. Evan stood beside her, watching the horizon where the fog had finally retreated into a soft, distant curtain. The silence felt different now. Not heavy, not fearful, just full of things waiting to unfold. Sarika exhaled, the glow beneath her skin dimming into a calm, steady rhythm. When I carried the message, she said softly, I felt as if every step belonged to the war. But now that it has been released, it feels like the steps belong to me again. Evan nodded, understanding more than he knew how to express. You have been carrying that weight for a long time. Too long, she admitted. I had forgotten what the world looked like beyond it. She turned to him, her silver eyes reflecting the open sky. You changed that. Evan shrugged lightly, though emotion tugged at his words. I did not do much. You guided me, she said. Through the fog, through fear, and through my own doubt. That is not a small thing. Before Evan could respond, the outpost emitted a soft chime. A projection rose above the central pillar, displaying symbols that shifted into a simple message. Received. In review. Delegates en route. Sarika watched the projection with a quiet reverence. They are coming, she whispered. The dialogue may begin today. Evan looked between her and the projection. So this is the moment you worked for. She hesitated, her expression gentle but conflicted. Yes, but I thought I would reach it alone. Evan offered a warm smile. Well, I am glad you did not. The breeze carried the faint scent of metallic dust and sun-warmed stone. Sarika stepped closer, her voice soft. Evan, there is a tradition among my people. When a journey ends at a place of safety, we express gratitude not through words, but through a gesture. It is meant for the one who ensured you did not walk the path alone. She raised her hand slowly, waiting for his permission. Evan nodded, his breath calm. Sarika placed her cool fingertips gently against the center of his forehead. The touch was light. As a whisper, her markings brightened in a soft glow, casting delicate patterns of silver and blue across his skin. He felt no weight in the gesture, only warmth, steady and sincere. This is the gesture of remembrance, she said quietly. It means that what you did today will travel with me into every decision that follows. Evan swallowed, moved more deeply than he expected. I will remember you too, he said. She let her hand fall gently, the glow fading back into her skin. They stood side by side as a distant shimmer appeared on the far edge of the field. The delegates' transport approaching, gliding across the sunlight like a silent promise. Sarika drew a long breath, gathering her strength. This is where our steps part, she said softly. For now. Evan looked at her, the weight of the moment sinking in. Then I am glad I walked this far with you. She held his gaze, silver eyes warm. Evan, you were never part of the war, but you may become part of the peace. The transport descended in a quiet arc. Sarika turned toward it, then paused one last time. The sun caught in her eyes, and for a moment, she looked almost human in her hope. She bowed her head slightly in farewell. Evan watched as she walked toward the arriving delegates, her steps steady, no longer burdened by fear or solitude. The fog behind them remained still, and the field glowed with soft afternoon light. And in the quiet that followed, Evan sensed something profound in the air around him, a truth carried in silence. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can guide someone farther than any map. Sometimes it can change the direction of a world.